Good morning, everyone. Let's move that out the camera a little bit. Good morning. Whew. Good morning, and welcome to another edition of Contractors Chatter. Contractors Chatter is designed to be that up-level conversation around government contracting. We discuss everything legislation, appropriations, and I'll discuss that in a minute. What's going on in the industry. We focus on those differing conversations, something beyond the where do we find opportunities and how do we win a contract. Because what most people don't realize that in government contracting, you can win the contract or lose the award. If you don't have the information, you cannot scale and grow. So there's a lot more to it than writing an RFP. That's what chatter is for. So I take a 15, 20 minutes each morning to give you a little actionable information that you can then turn around and implement into your contracting strategy to keep you up to date with what's new in the contracting industry. And we go from there. I broadcast live from Instagram. If you watch on Instagram, you'll know that. My Facebook company page, LT&A Company. I also go live from YouTube, LT&A Contractors Conversation is my YouTube channel. That is also where I hold my master classes. Next year, I intend to do a lot more master classes. This past year, I discussed the upcoming budget. Well, we discussed the what did the president call it? It wasn't Make America Great Again, but it was just a variation on that. Excuse me. We discussed the infrastructure spending. We discussed appropriation terminology. We discussed those things during the master class, and all those are on my YouTube channel. So this coming year, I will do a lot more of those. A lot of people seem to find value in it, and a lot of people are operating within the government space without really understanding the terminology. And I will tell anyone if you're going to respect it enough to learn how to speak its language, respect the industry that you're in. I'm your host, Luciana Turner. I have been in government contract 2020. So that's 21 years in total. I have been in government compliance officer for the last 16 years of that time. And a compliance specialist is basically somebody who ensures that the organization is adhering to the applicable rules and regulations that are in operation within the government sphere, as well as the applicable industry, i.e., FAR, CAS, GAGAS, labor laws, OSHA. A lot of people have become aware of OSHA and its power since the COVID mandates have been rolled out. And as you come into the room, say hello. You know how we were taught. We weren't taught to come in a room and not speak. We were told to speak. And if you're catching this by the replay, do hashtag replay so that I know that you stopped by, spend a little time. If you have questions, post them in the comments. I do go back and look at the comments, and I will answer any question that you have. And when appropriate, I do provide sources. If it's an opinion, I will preface it with it's an opinion. And then I always say it's an opinion based upon XYZ ABC. So, with that, let's get on to the subject at hand. There's a whole ton of things going on. We still have the official FY 2022 budget somewhat in limbo. You know what? I can't see any comments on my IG. So if you're leaving comments, I can't see them. But I'm sure I'll see it on the replay. Um, there's a whole lot of pontificating going on because the fiscal conservatives said you need to trim this back. What does that mean for contractors? Basically, it means nothing. This is what I want you to understand with the budget and why it's important. But I also want you to understand what it really means. The government has been running off a continuing resolution since President Obama was in office. So that's for the last, 12 years? And that's why we've had all these shutdowns. This year, it looks like they're going, and I said this before, they're actually going to pass a funding budget. Now, quite frankly, I don't know why the American people didn't get mad before and just demand that Congress do its job and pass a budget. That is its job, to pass a budget. The president submitted one each term, each year, like they were supposed to, like he was supposed to. Congress just didn't do anything with it. I mean, they just didn't do their job. This year, it looks like they're going to pass a budget. The only thing that this trimming of the budget does for contractors is a lot of the initiatives that we're going to get 10-year funding or extended funding in the budget, it just won't get that. Does that really mean anything in the long-term planning for contractors? No. Because anybody who's been in the game long enough understands when a new administration comes in, they can change things. Just like when President Biden came into office, he removed the permanent funding for HBCUs and he not only decreased it, but he made it a thing where they had to compete every year. Whereas the previous administration made it a fixed funding. So it doesn't really, this whole dynamic of trimming the budget back keeps us below the debt ceiling. It has a net zero impact on government contractors from that perspective. From this perspective, from the other perspective I'm getting ready to discuss, it makes contract projections easier. We now have solid numbers. We now understand, unless in government appropriations is set up so that once a contract or project is funded, it's tricky to defund it. In corporate world, somebody comes along, decides they don't want to fund your project anymore, they take the funding away. It's a little more difficult in the government space. So with that said, with a permanent budget or a fixed budget in place, when you win a long awarded contract, you can actually budget for that revenue in the long haul. And that's what you're seeing agencies do. You're seeing forecasts now reflect higher valued awards. What that means for the smaller guys is some of these contracts you're going to have to look at from a purely set aside lens or a purely subcontracting lens. And that's not a bad thing. If you won as a subcontractor 5% of some of the initiatives I'm seeing out here, 5% of a $1 billion contract is pretty good. So don't despise subcontracting opportunities, especially in the federal space. Is a great way to build past performance. Is a great way to build credibility in the Fed space. It's a great way to build a expansive network and a reputation for being a great partner in the government space. So look at the forecasts that are already out in the street. They came out months ago. Some agencies have placed out revised forecasts. And a forecast is where agencies are saying this is what we anticipate our needs will be for the coming year. Forecasts are also a great way of seeing what they currently are spending and what they intend to recompete. It's a great tool to create a strategy. I'm going to do a class on how to use forecasts to create a government strategy. And small businesses are sleeping on these opportunities. These bigger guys, they're not smarter than us. I'm going to just put it out there. The Lockheeds, the Boeings, the General Dynamics are not smarter than us. But what they do is they don't focus on what they don't have. They focus on what's there. One of the top executives for one of the largest contractors, I was listening to him talk about how the company got started. And it was ingenious in the simplicity. All he did was take the forecasts and he went through every agency forecast and said these, and then identified, okay, this is the type of work I want to do. He knew what type of work he wanted to do. He went through every agency forecast and said, these are the agencies that have the work that I want to do. Well, then these are the people I want to work with. And then he went from there. Too often, small businesses say, I want to work with this agency and then try to do work that they do. When you should start with, I do this work. Let me see who needs my work. And we discussed that in my upcoming virtual summit. How to become a power partner in government contracting. It starts November 8th. The registration link is up. Finally, today it's up. Had some technical difficulties, and I said, look, forget it. I came up with a workaround so I could get the registration link up. It's up in the description. IG, I'm not sure if it's on my IG description or not. It will be up today if it isn't. Register. The only way you will be able to participate and watch the broadcast is if you register for the summit. That's it. If you don't register, you can't participate. And you don't want to miss out on this information. I'm talking to people with 30 years of experience within government contracting. I spoke to one person that I interviewed. I interviewed her from a leadership perspective. And when we were talking to set up the interview, I discovered she worked for VA. So being who I am, I wove that into the interview. So we have a lovely 3-part interview where she actually talks about what it is to contract with a major agency like the Veterans Administration and what they look at when they contract. how they actually have contractors, they be sitting there counting down the days to when that contract runs out because they're terrible to work with. You don't want to miss that because you don't want to be that contractor who thinks they're doing a good job and your end client is like, is it over yet? Is it over yet? Can we pull this contract from them? You think you're amazing and they think you're the worst thing since the Great Flood. So I'm just saying it's free. Every contractor should invest in knowledge. So register for the summit. You won't be sorry. So I'm going to tie up or conclude today's session with this. Put my notes out of the way. I'm looking out my window right now, and it's a great day. At some today, walk away from your computer and go outside. A hurried, worried mind cannot think critically or strategically. Take time each to get away from it all. I don't care if you listen to music. I don't care if you read a book, go for a walk. Don't eat lunch at your desk. I don't care if you sit in your car. Just take some time to decompress and get away from it all. 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. You'll be amazed at what that